we are here to bring you everything and anything surrounding Porsche. I'm Mike.
I'm Aaron.
And this is P-Car Talk.
All right, welcome to another episode of P-Car Talk. We are back to our regular scheduled program with just Aaron and I. So we're excited to be back in Tampa. I'm Mike.
And I'm Aaron.
So let's get rolling. A lot of interesting stuff to talk about this particular episode, right?
Yeah.
So back to some Porsche news, back to some stuff that's happening in Porsche and all that great stuff. And, we're going to get rolling and a lot of cool stuff. And, we're going to try to start doing things where we're engaging the audience as well and, having comments regarding what we're putting out on content because we have those abilities, right? So
yep, getting our community into a community.
Exactly. And that way it gets you guys talking with each other. Why not, right? So you're already all kind of connecting with us and we're all grouping up. And like I said, we're trying to bring everybody in from a global level. And, slowly but surely we're getting there. We're building some momentum and we're truly grateful for that. But why not, have something, some feedback from you guys as far as talking with one another and continuing to build that strength and community. So where I'm going with this is, since this comes out on YouTube, there's a comment section on there. Whatever topics that we talk about, we would like to hear some engagement from you guys, what you would like, as far as the topics that we like, not necessarily the show, but necessarily what we're going to talk about in that show and say, hey, which car would you have picked and why? Or which car did you pick that you actually own and why did you pick that car? Yep. Or why would you not pick that car?
Why do you hate it?
Yeah. And then kind of like going back and forth, obviously don't be malicious to one another. If somebody says something that doesn't, use the whole, schoolyard concept, just keep your comments to yourself. If you don't have anything nice to say to each other, somebody's like, well, I would have picked the Martini livery on this car. And they're like, you're stupid. Why would you ever have picked that?
I hate Martini livery.
Let's kind of keep that down.
Golf forever.
If you feel that way, let's just do yourself and everyone else a favor and just not comment. Don't be a internet hero and try to be a tough guy.
No room for trolls.
Yeah, just all positive stuff. And the whole purpose behind this, obviously, is to just engage with one another and support one another and conversate with one another. And
it's fun.
Yeah, on all levels, right?
Make friends.
So that's the kind of idea and concept behind that. So, you can start that with this episode, actually, then go down in the comments of this episode and, anything that we talked about or our thoughts and theories behind it. And then anybody who else does post on something or, go back and forth with one another and have that conversation because, again, we're trying to build that community up as far as maybe you guys will see each other at an event. Like we saw a bunch of people when we were out in California or, you're visiting somebody in England or you're going on a business trip somewhere and there's extra Porsche people. It's like, oh, hey, by the way, I live in Chicago. It's like, oh, I'm going to be in Chicago for a week. Let's link up. Hey, remember I was the guy who commented on and said, hey, I would have picked that same car too. So that's kind of the theory and the concept behind that. And our goal is just to kind of unite and unify everyone, regardless if you're like on the 356 registry, you're not just a 356 guy. Remember, you're a Porsche guy.
Yeah, it turns out you have a Porsche.
Yeah, so, and, you're a water-cooled guy, so you're only a water-cooled guy. Yep. No, you're not. You're a Porsche guy.
Can hang out with those guys.
We're trying to break those barriers down to where everybody is friends with one another, and I know it sounds kind of like, really like lovey-dovey and all that kind of stuff.
Hippie.
But at the end of the day, like the mark is big enough and small enough within the same community that we shouldn't be siloed up. As far as like, okay, well, I'm only an air-cooled guy and I only talk to air-cooled guys.
I think it's easy to get clicked up like that just because you feel like you relate easier to.
Yeah, it's human nature, right? Like it's human nature just to stay in a certain camp and not ever venture out of your camp because it's safe.
Comfort zone.
Yeah, it's safe. It's like what and that's what you do. You say you're a 356 guy and you got a bunch of 356 buddies and you go to a show and even if it's a Porsche all show, like you're just going to hang out with your 356 buddies. Most of the time, most people. We're just telling people to break out of that mold. Like, talk to everybody, hang out with everybody. If you're at the event, even if you don't own a Porsche, you're there for a reason because you like the brand, you like the mark. So we're just saying everybody should be conversating, participating with one another. You never know what the other person has to offer you, or you can offer them an advice, conversation, or just life experience in general.
True.
So just saying, open up your minds and your hearts with that. And, just... I know we preach it a lot, but we really mean that. So let's get going. So Porsche Type 64.
Yep. Looks weird.
Weird.
Looks like a spaceship every time I've seen one.
Yeah. All right. We saw one at Rensport. So if you guys don't know what this thing is, basically, if you can think of it, and you guys should Google it, it's essentially looks kind of like a helmet, right?
Yeah, it does.
It's got like the things over the wheels where it's all
It's
covered up like an old Cadillac from back in the day.
Aerodynamically as it can be, covered with metal.
Exactly, like aircraft,
Yeah.
grade aluminum.
It's almost like a wing.
Exactly.
As much as they can make it a wing.
Essentially. Yeah, almost like those old fighters back before they could figure out how to get rid of the landing gear, right?
Yeah.
They put like the tonneau covers over like the landing gear to like slipstream them a little bit more. That's kind of the concept here. I mean, and we're talking about it because this one of the three is going to go up for auction this summer at Monterey, which is insane, right?
Yep, in August.
Yeah, and this car was built in 39, guys, 1939.
It's just been a few years.
Yeah, just a little bit. And again, we always talk about motorsport and everything. This car was originally built for motorsport. They wanted to build this car to race it. And it's basically based off of a Volkswagen KDF wagon, which essentially, if you guys don't know what that is, it looks kind of like a Volkswagen thing, if you know what that looks like, merged with like a small personnel tank, essentially.
Cool.
So that's what this was based off of. And when I mean based off, I loosely based off it. They essentially took the engine and the chassis out of that and rebodied it and put this whole slipstream, all aluminum chassis, all that kind of stuff on it, essentially to go racing. And like I said, that race was going to take place from basically, they were going to race that thing from Rome, I think.
Yeah, Berlin to Rome.
Yeah, Berlin to Rome. And the cool thing about that was that race actually, or not cool, I should say. I mean, the bad thing, I guess, or however you want to look at it, and good thing in a way, because obviously he got overthrown and he was beaten. But, the whole World War II thing broke out, just something minor.
That put a damper on the racing.
Yeah. Again, where, Germany invaded Poland in September 1st, I think. So that race was supposed to happen in September. So, Nazis ruined things again. So
Always ruining stuff.
yeah, there you go.
They did give you the Beetle, though,
Yeah,
so you have that.
There you go, destroying things again. But in all seriousness, not to make a joke, and that's not what that was about, but like, it's just giving a little history on why that happened. And the motor actually, had 32 horsepower, which
Super
actually
high
was,
power.
yeah. Well, for 39, I mean, the car weighed hardly anything.
Nothing.
So, and even back then, the engine was in the rear, so they were under the impression of, and when I say they, the engineers, the German engineers were saying, okay, well, the weight's over the rear tires, so we're going to be able to get better traction.
Did they flip the front-wheel drive concept?
Yeah, exactly. And they were like, hey, the weight's in the back, we can get this thing up to 32 horsepower, it's super light. And it was a road race, so wasn't like a drag race. It was a long, I mean, you heard the distance, right? Like, that's a pretty far distance, so with their engineering, this car probably would have won that road race. I mean, it probably would have been super efficient. Its coefficient of drag was probably super low.
Do you think they should bring it back? Classic race with Type 64s, Berlin to Rome. Here we go.
That would be awesome if they could do that, but unfortunately, obviously, the population would never.
No.
There's so many cars on the road nowadays. Like, they could pull stuff like this off back in the day.
Oh,
because you
for
think
sure.
about like 1939, how many people probably owned a vehicle in
Oh,
Europe? Hardly any.
rarely.
There was still a lot of farm country back
the
then.
wealthiness.
Yeah, it was very rural still back then. So this race could make sense. Like, this race could exist. It was a time and place type of race, right? So like, just like, even if you wanted to do a modern road rally, you're still going to contend with everyday traffic.
Yeah, there were several races like this, because there was something similar for the Nürburgring where they would do, but it was like 200 miles and you still did 4 laps of the Nürburgring.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like, Monterey, they try to do like a celebrated run, like the cars that participate.
The 17 miles.
Yeah, the 17-mile run. I mean, it's not a race, but the car's got to run the whole race, not break down, not...
It's one of those stipulations. You got to make it.
Exactly. And a lot of times it's either misting or cold. Everybody knows how Monterey
That's
is.
true.
So you have a lot of these open cab, brass era cars or wooden cars. I mean,
With the
17
goggles
miles.
on.
Yeah, 17 miles is treacherous in one of those kind of cars and that temperature, So, so they, people try to celebrate races like that and in their own way, in a controlled environment. And to take an old car and to do something like that, it would be neat. There are rallies like that happening still. Like, when we talked to John Benton, there's the Targa Panamera race that's happening, the Peking to Paris, obviously. Those are more modern era races, even though they started a long, long time ago. They're still kind of the lineage is still going. Yeah, the lineage is still happening there. And I would say some of those older races like that were mentioned, because they're going over the type of road that hasn't been developed. So I think a lot of the heart of that race is still there. As opposed to, back in the day when the way they originally did those races. So I think a lot of that heritage is still there. But I think just location-wise, where some of these cities exist, and it's just not possible.
I couldn't imagine trying to drive through Rome. That'd be insane. Or Berlin.
Yeah, in modern day.
Yeah, in between.
You probably couldn't even link enough rural roads together to make that happen.
Nor would you want to, because that's the dangers of driving.
Yeah. So I think it'd be neat if they could do that, but I just think that unfortunately where we are at is civilization-wise, like
that's why racetracks exist.
Exactly, and it just can't happen. So, circling back to this car, there was only 3 of them. So the very first one, super, like, I guess it essentially was a prototype before prototypes were around. So it's a prototype.
So there were 3 prototypes, or is there just a prototype and then 2 productions?
Yeah, I'll get into it. So so there's technically 3 of them, right? But it's not really 3. So there's really 2.
Okay.
So the first one that they built in 1939, a Nazi officer was driving it, executive crashed the car. So they rebuilt the car. They basically scrapped it because it was aluminum. So
there was aluminum cans.
The cab was done,
nothing.
but they saved the chassis. So car number 3, essentially, which is numbered 3, it was car number 1. So you get where I'm going with that?
Okay.
So essentially, they called it 3 because
they revented essentially.
Exactly. They put another cab on that car. Because, you think about it, like old Volkswagen-wise, you can take the entire chassis off the car. So this is what this was built on, like the same kind of chassis concept. Like you can just
So they recommissioned.
Yeah, you can peel it open. Yeah, exactly, right? Good call. So you could peel the car open. So they salvaged what they can, which was basically the underpinning chassis part of the car. And they put another top on it. So that essentially is car number 3. That car is the car that's going for sale.
Yep. So the stainless steel
exactly.
Not stainless steel, but the aluminum.
Yeah. So that car is going for sale.
The non-painted version.
So car number 2, funny enough, or ironically enough, I should say, it was actually, that car was crashed as well. But then that car was restored, and then that car is basically a museum car.
That's why it's black?
Yeah. That car's living in Hamburg at the moment, but also has been in the Peterson Museum.
Hamburg's a nice place.
Yeah. So that car is essentially car number 2. So it's kind of a weird way that they decided to do it. Yes, there's 3 of them, but not really 3 of them. There was really only 2. Whatever happened, I'm sure that Shell or whatever.
Could you imagine being the guy that got the number 3 car to find out that it's the number 1 car?
Yeah. Well, I don't think I cared about stuff like that back then.
Somebody cared.
Yeah, well, the funny thing or ironic thing about it is that Germany allowed, I guess, the Porsche family to retain car number 3, so it's their car.
Oh, that's good. Good for them.
Yeah, so I don't know the details when I did my research didn't get into the fact where if it was the Porsche family actually selling the car, or if it was somebody was brokering the car for them to sell it.
Consignment type thing, yeah.
Or if it's changed hands since then, since the Porsche family's owned it. It didn't get into all that for valid reason, obviously. To protect the buyer, like they don't want to divulge information like that,
or cause that price to spike up because
somebody was the owner or wasn't the owner, or decline even if it wasn't the Porsche family's car anymore.
Doesn't have lineage,
yeah. It's like, what do you mean they don't own the car anymore? Like, when did you get the car? Like one of those type of deals. But
how come Jerry got it?
Yeah, right. So essentially, Germany allowed I don't know if they found it in their heart. I don't know the way you would word it.
By law, I bet you they have
word it vernacularly. I think they just had engineering propriety towards the car, and it was like, okay, this is your car. You can have it back or whatever. And
you have first dibs or first rights.
So yeah, the war was over and everything like that. So car number 3 was restored in Turin, in Italy, by Italian Auto Design.
Yeah, Pininfarina,
which was known as Pininfarina. They weren't known as Pininfarina at the time, and again, that was in 1947. It didn't get into the details if the car had been restored since 47, but maybe just refreshed. Obviously, like, things deteriorate over time.
Never been in a wreck. Never.
But I'm sure that, after 47, you know, they probably used the car a little bit
Yeah.
for fun or.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, you think about it, this was basically their prototype to help the 356 come alive, essentially. So this car was that father to the 356, essentially, where they started building the 356s, loosely based off of this. I mean, this kind of was with the birth of that idea, and like what helped catalyst all of those things to say,
Catalyst a lot of things for Germany.
yeah, say, okay, we're going to do this now. We didn't make that race, but we want to start racing 356s, and voila, they're in Le Mans. You know, I think it was 1949, the first time they took a 356 to Le Mans, really, before they started like making them. So this was 47 when this car got redone. So you think about that. There's definitely a lot of inspiration there behind all that. So again, Porsche is always mindful thinking, I want my cars to be in motorsport. I always want to be racing. I always want to do these things, which is kind of amazing and unamazing, I guess, in a way, because you think about it back then, people were still enamored of just owning
There's an
the car,
automobile, yes.
you know, and he was already at the level of like, hey, I want to race this thing. I don't really care about if people buy these. It was almost a Ferrari concept, right? Like I sell these cars so I can race. So you fund my racing team, you fund my racing money by buying normal cars, you know, which weren't normal to him, but they weren't actually normal to the public. They were like, oh my God, that's the fastest thing on the road.
Exactly.
That's this. And it's like, yeah, you want to see something fast, come down to the track, pal.
Yep.
So I think it's interesting to think that Porsche has always had that lineage, as opposed to, you know, I won't name them by brands, but, you know, people who birthed brands by, hey, let's just make mass quantity economy cars because that's what we want to do. And then, we happen to make quality cars, and now people want us to make F1 engines for them. I guess we can do that too.
It's a business without a passion for anything.
Yeah, so it's kind of almost like reversed wise, right? Like, okay, let's just make something survivable. And then as opposed to they were birthed in motorsport to start with, and everything else is just like as he says, it's just waiting, you know, if you're not racing. So it's pretty nice and interesting, and such a significant car that's coming up for sale in Monterey at Car Week is pretty momentous. And the reason why that's momentous, that anticipated amount of sale on this car is going from 20 to 25 million.
Yep. That Ferrari GTO money.
Yeah. So it's their expectation, it's going to be the highest Porsche ever sold at auction in history.
Well, it's got a lot of lineage there to be that.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, it's the grandfather car. So it's the one of, I guess, two now. I guess you could look at it.
I would say I would really go one of one.
But essentially it was the first one. So maybe it was it just depends however you want to dilute it and break it down. You could say a lot of things. It was actually traditionally really the first car because the soul of it's still there and it just got rebodied. But anyways, the point of that is, you know, the most expensive Porsche to sell at auction was in 2017, was a 917 for 14 million.
Nice.
So think of that disparity in money wise. Like, say this thing does go for 25 million. This thing's going to go for $11 million more than a race car 917. And that 917 was the Gulf livery one that was actually used in the Le Mans film.
So does that mean all the boats are about to rise as well?
Yeah, it makes you, or does it make you think like all the 356s, because that's the closest thing to this?
That's true. About to get popular.
Are those gonna, like, they've never declined? They've just been on a steady increase from forever.
It's time.
You know, they've just kind of like been inching along. They didn't see, oh my God, shoot up $100,000 overnight type of situation, or in a quarter, I should say, like a lot of the air-cooled 911s.
Yep.
Maybe this could drum up a lot of fire because that's the closest thing you're going to be able to get to this prototype. And that's, I mean, 356s share a lot of lineage and looks and stuff from this car because a lot of what they built that car off was based off of that prototype. So is that going to have an impact on that? I guess we'll have to wait and see. But what are your thoughts on that? Do you think it is going to impact that market? Do you think?
I don't know. I kind of don't see that. I think I see them staying steady, but I think this is such a one-off anomaly. This will definitely gain some money and garner some money, but I don't think it's really going to raise.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to.
You don't think it's going to be like a meter shifter for 356s?
Unless it was a 356, then yeah, because of that race on Sunday Sale on Monday thing where you can see that car. I don't think there's enough of the. Yes, it is a lineage of the 356 per se, but I don't think there's enough of it where it rises those tides for those guys.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that because, I mean, yes, you can tie it back, but I mean, you can tie a lot of race history back to a lot of cars, right? So I think what it'll do is maybe it won't have a super spike, but maybe there'll be like a little blip.
It's a realization. Oh, yeah.
You know, they can kind of blip up for a little bit. Not that they'll go down, but they'll just blip up and maybe stay there and stay stagnant again.
So prep, guys.
Yeah.
If you need to sell 356.
Yeah.
August, September time.
Yeah, plan it right around, actually right after the sale of that. Yep. So this is going to sell in car week. So maybe you could sell your car in September or October, you know, and then use that. And if you're a buyer, make sure you buy before then.
Exactly. Strategy, guys.
But in all seriousness, I think it may give it a little blip, and there's already special 356s that do cost a ton of money, so I don't know if it's gonna, like, you know, you got the 550 Spider and stuff like that. That's not necessarily
anything that's a 4Cam.
Yeah, anything that's kind of race car-y ish early like that is
Speedsters.
already super expensive. So I don't know if that's gonna help that much, because those cars already carry a lot of weight on their own. They don't need any help, essentially, I should say. But maybe some of the other cars, maybe the later cars like 356Cs, may bump up a little bit more than they are going for now at the moment, you know, and I'm talking maybe 10-15%, nothing crazy, nothing to the point where it's like, oh my God, I had an $80,000 car and now it's $280. Yeah, nothing like that. I'm thinking maybe 10% tops, you know, and something like that if you're a 356 guy, and, you know, which is great in a way. I mean, and that car's always going to be going up. Like, we've already talked about all these kind of things in the past where the basement bargain prices on these cars that boat has sailed a long time ago. And, you know, they're on that trend now where it's every year it goes by, you know, it might not be a significant amount, but they're going up.
Yep.
And the meter is always on this, like, kind of like very, you know, low incline, but it's every year it goes by, it's just taking along. You know, gone are the days, even back in the day we talked about, where you could go and, you know, in the 90s, you could go buy 356 for, you know, in the teens, where people are like, yeah, you want that old junker or whatever? And it's like, okay.
The rusty bathtub.
Yeah. And who knows? I mean, unfortunately or fortunately, I guess, from being a Porsche enthusiast, nearly everything, except unless it's brand spanking new, is on that tick. If it's all, if there's any type of lineage / classic history, if it's in any of those categories, there's value to the car regardless. So, you know, we had a friend of ours not too long ago picked up a barn find, essentially, G-body Carrera, and he got, I won't say the price, but let's put it this way, what he ended up paying, car had ran in like 20 something years, so the motor's probably locked up, shot, whatever, but just the sum of the parts on the car was worth more than he paid for the car.
Nice.
If he parted the car out. So it's kind of one of those things like, okay, well, at least I can break this car down and sell all the stuff to people that could use the car, the parts in period correct time to build whatever car they need to build from this car, because maybe it's too far gone for him to rebuild, whatever. And there's still stuff like that out there. But I mean, like, the point is like, he didn't walk away with it like it wasn't a garage sale price. Exactly. I mean, he was still paid, you know, a good amount of money for the car, like thousands wise, just to part it out. And it's kind of interesting to think about that for a minute, how far Porsche has come from a value perspective, right?
Amazing. It's way, I mean, multiple X from where it was. And I think it's just because people are starting to realize with social media and everything else, but starting to hang on to the stories and the history and really resonating with that. And that's the things that people are starting to be drawn to, not just it's a car. But they can point back to, well, we have the most wins here, we have the most wins there.
Exactly.
We can watch these cars being raced at IMSA or go to Rennsport, and we can see this history alive.
Exactly.
And I don't think any other brand is doing that.
And I think it has a lot to do with, like, their long-term participation in motorsport, right? Because I think a lot of that has to go with a lot of companies have come in and out, and they had a hiatus for whatever financial reasons, whatever reason, you can make up in the book, but they've pretty much been in motorsports since the birth.
Yeah, and everything. Like it's not limited to what
and they haven't slowed down in the sense. And I think from an enthusiast level, even if you are that guy who just wants to cruise your GTS and you're not into racing and you're not into any of that stuff, well, those things that are in your car, you're still enjoying because of the race technology that has spilled down into your car. So I think it has to do, all of the roots are still back to that, and it goes back to that. Well, this is a race car first, and now we kind of made it for street level.
We detuned it so you can enjoy it on the street.
Yeah, and not the other way around, right? We didn't take an economy car and then try to go racing with it.
Exactly. Well, it just seems like that's the perfect way to do things.
Yeah, it's almost easier to do it the engineering way, that you race car first and then make it more streetable.
Yeah, because you're going to build for longevity. For somebody on the street, they're going to bang against it. It's not,
another reason why Porsche is a very reliable high-end car, as opposed to maybe a lot of the other marks that exist, that it's one of those cars where, hey, well, if it can withstand the track, I'm pretty sure it can withstand your daily drive, bud.
Exactly.
So, and I think a lot of that, and it all birthed with the Type 64. A lot of that stuff is that's where that mindset was. Like when they built this, you guys, I'm sure a lot of you will look at it if you haven't seen it, and I'm sure a lot of you guys did see it at Ren Sport or seen pictures of it or read articles about it. You can look at it. I mean, for the time, think about, like, try to rewind. Obviously, it's very going to be hard for a lot of us to imagine that, but take a time, 1939. Think about that for a second. That this car existed during that time frame. How slippery this car looked. Like, go and pull up another car that was made during that time. Like, pull up a 1939 Ford, for example. That thing was like a bread box.
Wagon wheels and bread, and a box.
I mean, catching every bit of, like, walled aero it can, like a brick flying through the air. And then you compare it to this thing where it's slippery, and you can see all of the jet fighter mentality in this car, like all of the, like, slipstream, like, before they even had aero stuff, they were thinking about aero.
This was one of those cars that the Autobahn was made for.
Mm-hmm. Where they're
literally
thinking about an aircraft flying through the air, like what can create less drag on this car. And essentially that's a lot of what this car, why it looks the way it looks.
They only have so much power. They gotta do something.
Exactly. Make it slippery as possible. But it should be an amazing event. I will definitely be watching the RM auction, because I'm very curious to see what this thing does in Monterey. It should be very, very amazing. Do you think it's going to go for that 20 to 25? Do you think it's going to go for more? Or do you think it's going to go for less?
I don't know. That's a lot of money for that car.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody's got to be collecting. I mean, obviously.
There's a lot of high rollers out there.
There's a lot of collectors out there for these cars, and this is definitely a situation.
Think about this for a minute.
One of one.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Think about this for a minute. You're a guy. And let's just throw a number out there, because we don't have that kind of money. We'll just throw crazy money out there for the window and just say you have $850 million at your disposal at any liquid. Let's just call it liquid. And you can buy things frivolously or move funds around and whatever. Like, you'll have the money. I mean, I at the end of the day, as bad as this sounds, I know this sounds funny to say that, but if I had if I was rolling that way and I was a collector, maybe not even an enthusiast, but say you were just a collector of cars in general for historical value reasons. See, even if I was a Lambo guy, or say you're a Bugatti guy, this car would be significant enough to add to that collection, just because of its history and its lineage and the things, how it sparked Porsche and all these things that it did. I feel like at that number, I know it sounds ridiculous, and we're not being paid by RM by any means to, like, inflate numbers. I'm just, my personal opinion, I really feel like that's kind of a low number to have something that significant. Like, I would say this car could easily go for $50 million in another arena.
Probably. I mean, RM's a good auction house.
Yeah, and I don't mean it that way. I just meant as far as, like, it goes back to, again, like, Porsches were never valued for, like, crazy money. Like, for example, let's just say Ferrari. If this was a Ferrari, the very first prototype car, one of two cars, this would probably be $100 million, right?
Easily.
So I think you're getting it at a bargain almost. As ridiculous as that sounds. I mean, it is ridiculous to say this is a bargain, but
have any of the 2/3/2 been sold at auction? So this is the very, very, very.
Well, the other one's never going to be sold because
Oh,
it's
yeah, 'cause
owned
it's
by
in the-
Hamburg.
yeah.
Or it's owned by the
Yeah.
museum. It's owned by Porsche. So this is the only chance that anyone will ever get to own.
So there's a good chance that that's base, and it really goes ridiculous.
Yeah, honestly, I would be shocked if it didn't go for more than this. I think they're just being uber cautious with the number, and I think they're just basing that off of the 917 race car that sold. I would estimate it going maybe 35, 40. I know I'm not an auction guy by any means at this level, so maybe I'm just talking out of my ass, but if you start to break down the sum of its parts as far as like its history and what it really is and the significance of what it is, it's more significant than the 917 was because they made a lot more of them. I mean,
There wouldn't be a 917 if this car didn't exist.
There's two of these.
Yeah.
Two. And you can't get the other one. So this is your only chance to buy one. Yeah. Ever.
What if the other one comes up for sale after this one gets sold?
Well, then we don't have anything to do with that.
Then all of a
I'm
sudden
just saying, but yeah. I would highly doubt that because that car's been at the Peterson. It's been at, it lives in Hamburg at the Porsche Museum there. So that car is invaluable to them for a reason. So they would never sell that car. So I'm sure, and if they didn't own that car, and say for some reason it got crushed for whatever, I wouldn't be surprised if Porsche was a buyer and this would never even go to auction. They may have bought this car.
Yeah.
And bought the one I'm talking about that's for sale.
I'm surprised they don't buy it.
Well, think about it. What you don't really need two of them, And I know it's not about money with them because they print money, but at the same time, is it worth you to spend $30 million for something that you already have another one of, just to say that you have them and no one else has these? I don't think Porsche cares that much. I think the fact that they own the one is good enough for them. And it maybe even it's kind of cool for them for somebody else to actually own the other car instead of them hoarding them all. As far as that other car can circulate more and it can go to different events that they don't sanction or maybe that they're not a part of. So maybe that's another approach too. And at the end of the day, it's a dollars and cents thing. If you're on the business side of like Porsche, that doesn't make sense for you to buy that car just to park it.
It's true.
Because they're never going to resell it. And once they get it, they're not ever going to resell it. So you think about it like that's just dead money after that for them. As opposed to another collector who can buy this car.
And then hopefully double his money later
Exactly.
on.
At some point, even if they keep that car as long as they live, well, guess what? Their life is going to expire someday. So that car will change hands someday, somewhere. So at that point, I think it's kind of good that it is being sold. So there is some availability in that market out there for people to buy them.
Gives you time to get one.
Yeah, right. But and the reason why I'm talking about money wise, I mean, we all know that Jerry's a high roller, and this is a significant car, and he really likes significant things and one-off things and things that are very low. I wonder if he's a buyer for this car. That's a good question. To be honest with you, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, he's a Porsche guy. Like, I would love if somebody's going to buy it. It'd be kind of cool if he bought it.
I think you'd like it because it's been wrecked.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think he could overlook the whole thing of it being the way they did things back then, it being a one of three and them repurposing the body on it and doing it that way. I mean, he's owned a Gamoon 356 before. He likes significant things that are very special. This is a very special vehicle. And I'm not saying...
do you think he would even let this even hit auction if that was the case, if he really wanted it?
Might not be his choice, though.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, it's one of those, whoever the owner of the car is, that they obviously think that the best opportunity for them is going to be at auction.
I guess that's true. A bidder versus bidder.
Yeah. I mean, he could have, maybe Jerry did make a move on this car, and, no one's ever going to tell that story or talk about it. But, you start to think about all the wealthy people that are out there in the world. You have all these, industry tycoons that own businesses that started things up. You have .com people, all these different ways people have earned money. You have oil money out there. You have, princes of places that have tons and tons of money, FU money, like we like to say. Yeah. And, this could get into a bidding war. This could turn into something very...
That sounds so much better than just somebody coming up and buying it, so...
No, exactly. Yeah. Plus, I mean, they're doing the car a justice, too, because they're bringing light to the history of the car. Like, this car could have just traded hands secretly. Nobody know about it. No write-ups about it. you know, it helps the momentum. It helps everybody. It's going to help the seller. Clearly,
Oh, yeah.
we're talking about it.
Yeah, it's true.
So, I mean, it's going to add fuel to it. All of these new press areas and media areas have printed articles about the car.
I didn't realize there was more than one of them. I thought there were just the black one that we saw, and that was it.
Yeah, I didn't either. I mean, I don't know enough about
I thought it was prototype. And
Yeah, that's what I thought so too.
That was it.
But again, that's the car that Porsche owns.
Yep.
So, and it's kind of neat. I mean, to be honest with you, Jerry has FU money. Like, he could easily buy this car and say, okay, yeah, I want this. But he also seems to me as a guy that he wouldn't get in a bidding war with somebody.
No, he's going to do it.
He has an idea, I think, what he would like to pay for this car. And I think if it's over that, I think he's strong enough. He has a huge, strong personality enough to say, nope, that's where my cutoff is, and I'm willing to pay X amount of dollars for it, and it's gone way beyond that, and I'm not a buyer at that level. Even though he has the money to do it, he also
it's
doesn't.
Not about that. It's just,
he just doesn't throw money away. He's not one of those guys. He has value of what he thinks things are valued at, and if it's above that, he just doesn't buy it. That's just the way it is. But, you know, honestly, I'd rather see somebody like him own it, to be honest with you, because he'd be the kind of guy that would. I mean, we saw one of his cars at Luftgekühlt. Like, we would get to see this car again.
Yeah, he does show his cars. That's true. That's a good point.
If this went to some, you know, Prince of Ovid, you know, wherever,
Yep.
you know, oil money, this could go into his collection of
Over at the
1,000.
Emirates,
Yeah.
hanging out in the house.
1,000 cars in his collection, and this car would never be seen again.
Nope.
And it would just
Wrapped in gold.
Yeah, it would just be disappeared. Like, it would never be at a Porsche event. We would never get to see it. We would never see it at Monterey or, you know, or Rennsport, or the car would hide. And so I really hope somebody who buys this car, even if it isn't some, like, maybe they have a personality like Jerry, where they would at least, the car would be shown somewhere. You would see the car for the masses. So, because people need to see that stuff. I think it's because we're not all fortunate enough to be in that boat where we can have something at that level. But, you know, going back to what we talked about before, being like humans and all that kind of stuff, like, you should share that. Like, you're still the owner.
Share the history.
Yeah, share it. Put it on display. You're not bragging. You're sharing.
And even if you are bragging, still cool.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, well, enough of that. I think it was an interesting topic for a little bit before we took a break. But before we go on a break, just want to reiterate the fact that Aaron spent a lot of time building some stuff up on the website. He built a newsletter on there. So go on there, guys. And what that is basically you're going to get the first dibs on anything that we ever release. You'll get the notification first. That way, you know, our avid listeners and the people that are part of our PCAR family can get, you know, an opportunity to buy those items first, or being the first to know that something new is going to come out or anything like that. Again, we're not stealing your information and selling it to anybody like that. That's all in-house. So don't be afraid to, you know, put your email on there on the newsletter. That's how you have to go. You put your email on there, and then boom. And then you can unsubscribe at any time that you want. You know, if you feel like we're, you know, overwhelming you with stuff, which we won't.
Yeah, if you don't like to know about events and other things.
Yeah,
and just
if you don't want to know about cool stuff, that's fine. Whatever. But at the end of the day, like, really, he did put the time in. So go down there, put your email on there. And, you know everybody uses Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, but guess what? Everybody does use email. So you put your email on there. You're going to check your email. That's what everybody does from every age bracket. Doesn't matter how old or young you are. You're going to check your email. So at a minimum, you can get on there in the newsletter, put your email in, and you'll be the first to know everything that we're doing, as opposed to like hearing it secondhand on the podcast to say, okay, go to the website. Well, guess what? You have already had an email a week or two before this podcast even aired.
That or hearing the podcast and then knowing that, oh, we were in Miami last week, and you could have known about that.
Yeah. Oh, I should have went to DRT. You know, you guys are doing I could have planned for that, but you would already heard about it a month ago if you were on the newsletter or whatever. What's coming up? Oh, you're going to be in Chicago. You're going to be going to this show. You're going to be doing that. Or something new that's coming out. Oh, you're doing a limited run on this. Yeah. Okay, well, guess what? It's already sold out by the time you got an opportunity for it because, like we said, we don't make a ton of stuff. It's just limited stuff. Yeah. So please get on there. Do Aaron a solid. Put your email on there. Aaron doesn't make the ask, so I'll make the ask for you.
I just made the little thing on the website with Mike pointing.
Yeah, you should hear Aaron behind the scenes. He's like, man, did all this work and nobody's even putting their stuff in on the email. I was like, you know what? I'll just shout it out. And I was like, you work hard, Aaron. I'll do it for you. But yeah, help Aaron out and help me out. Put your email on there in the newsletter. That way, at least we know that you're part of that PCAR family. We know you're part of that, the inner circle. Get on there and do that. Additionally, there's we had our artist Andrew Mitro
design
the
vintage,
pink pig stuff, right?
For our vintage line we're doing. We have a red shirt with the pink pig outline, and then we have the poster, which is the pink pig coming down the Mulsanne Street in Lamar, and it's pretty cool at night.
Yeah, and those are limited runs, so there's a lot of work put in all that stuff too. This isn't some like copy and paste gig. There was actually artists sketching this.
It's all hand drawn.
Yeah, putting this together. So again, that's a limited run. That's for sale right now at pcartalk.com. Go on there, please check it out. Help support everybody who's trying to, we're just trying to support everybody in the game who's trying to come up, trying to do stuff. So help support him. And then finally, make sure you go onto our YouTube channel. Aaron's posting vlogs that we're doing. Additionally, with these actual these podcasts are going up there as well. Make sure you guys subscribe because if you subscribe, this will come up in your feed every time we post something new. So that's why you want to subscribe. I know there's a lot of people that maybe don't watch YouTube, but that's the whole theory behind it. Make sure you like the videos, make sure you share. And additionally, there's comment area in there as well. And that's what we were talking about earlier in the show, where you can go in there, post comments.
Give some feedback, whether you like it, don't like it, want something.
Yeah, or about the
topics.
topic. What do you think about the, hey, the Type 64? Would you pay that much? Would you not pay that much? But yeah, like we always want to have a debate going on in there, and I think it's a great area for people to chat along with getting content too. So it's a double whammy, right? Like you're talking to each other and you're getting content. So, but other than that, again, newsletter is on pcartalk.com, pink pig stuff on pcartalk.com, hit the YouTube up. But we're going to take a break and then we'll be back.
Yep. See you.
Enjoying PCAR Talk? Of course you are. Connect with us on Instagram at PCAR Talk or on our website at pcartalk.com. If you're enjoying PCAR Talk, please subscribe and share this with anyone that would enjoy it as well. We thank you for your support. Now enjoy the rest of the show.
All right, guys, we're back from break. Just want to go ahead and thank a couple people. This isn't everybody, but some of the ones that we can thank, because otherwise we'll just spend an entire episode. You saw how we did did the questions.
The questions, same thing, yeah.
And that wasn't even all the questions. But we want to thank some people for buying merch. We want to thank Austin.
Yep, right? For buying the mug.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That seemed like pretty cool. Yeah, he likes it.
The mug's pretty awesome. So if you guys are coffee drinkers, we've got 917 mugs on there
15
too.
ounce and 11 ounce.
Yeah, so again, pcartalk.com. Want to thank Dennis. He bought a poster and a shirt. Awesome, dude. Smart move by buying that stuff, because again, this stuff is all limited. All of these, the whole 917 series, vintage series that we're setting up, all that stuff's going to be out by the summer. Like, we're going to shut that down whether they sell out or not, because I said it's like limited run stuff. Like once fall hits, it's going to be done. So if you're waiting to get all three, I understand that, but you still might want to be picking them up while you can. And then I want to thank Sean from Ren 11. He bought a shirt as well.
Some more big action.
Yeah, 917 shirt. So, that stuff's doing pretty well, and we appreciate everybody who's buying stuff. We just want to give some thank yous. Obviously, that's not everybody. If we didn't call you out, I'm sorry. But we do appreciate everybody who's supporting us and helping out, and we definitely love you guys for that. So let's get into the second half of the show. So I know it's not old news, but it has been discussed.
It's not new news.
Yeah, the 935, the remake, it's coming out.
Yep.
Obviously was launched with martini colors, but that car is going to be available in many other liveries, right?
Yep.
So
as it should be.
Kind of interesting. It's a race car. So
essentially.
Yeah, let's talk about the liveries that are available, and it's kind of interesting because they're only making 77 of these cars, right? But,
wow, so 77.
And there's 7 different liveries.
All right, so they're taking their chances on. I wonder what's going to be the most popular livery. I think they thought Martini, because obviously they wouldn't have thrown it out there as the flagship or the.
I'm sure they're probably thinking like, the cars are so expensive and they're so special, and then they're only making 77 of them. Why not? If they were doing a 3,000 run, this probably wouldn't be available.
Yeah.
But
so get a plain one and you'll be unique.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the game, right? Everybody's going to start playing with each other.
Yep.
I wonder if they're going to tell other buyers that's part of that 77.
This
many
livery's been used.
How many are used in that livery and what combo? So like now they got people really doing like crazy funky stuff, trying to like, okay, well, I'm going to do this. But I mean, again, there's only 7 variants. So let's go through them. They got golf livery.
Yep.
Which everybody knows. The Momo livery, the red. They have a Saks with the Dick Bauer livery on it, which is pretty cool. Socks. Like socks on your feet?
Yep.
Okay. But that's a pretty cool one, right? That one's kind of almost like a play on like a mixture between martini and golf. Like, because the car is white. There's some orange. There's some blue in it. So that one's kind of a cool one. So they have Team Kramer. With the Valiant International, I really like.
Yeah,
that's
what I saw.
With the teal, with the the ruby stone red pink in it, with like the speed yellow in it, like that one looks. Whew, maybe because we're in South Florida, and we like stuff like that.
Bright colors, please.
But that car, the teal on that just pops so much. So that's a cool livery. I would personally pick that one. I know I'm getting ahead of myself because I was going to ask you which ones you would pick, but I'm divulging already.
Okay.
But and then there's a red 917 livery from the team at 1 in 1970, the small Austrian team at 1.
Yep.
You know, the slashes on it. So they're paying homage to them. So that livery is going to be available as well. I know there's a lot of people that have put that on their GT3s as kind of just a, it
looks cool.
Like a homage, It looks like the stripes are bleeding essentially on the car, which is kind of cool. And then there's a sleek black from the team at 1 in Daytona. Has orange in it. It almost kind of it's orange, pink, and red stripes on it. It almost looks like a little bit like the Interscope car, but it's not. Is the best way I can describe it because there's no red in it. It's just pink. So the pink, there's pink striping, there's red striping, and orange kind of, and the car's all black. So it's just a little bit of pinstriping on the car.
I know that.
See what I'm talking about? Like where it wraps around the car. Yeah. So that's one, because that car won 24 hours in Daytona in 81. So they're paying homage to that car with that. And then last but not least, there's an all black with like the gold, the John Player special.
Oh, the JPS. Huh?
Yeah. So that's going to be a pretty cool one too.
I think that'd be a pretty popular one just because it's simpler.
Yeah. It's kind of cool. I like that idea of that one too. It's tough because who doesn't love livery stuff? If you're a Porsche guy, you love livery because it tugs at your heartstrings of, okay, race. These cars raced. I want that race car. I want my car to look like the race car.
It just depends on the tracks that you liked and the wins that you really resonate with.
So, that leads me to, where I was going to go with this. Of those 7, which one would you pick?
Well, not that I would sell the car after I bought it because I wouldn't. But
and of course, the Martini one. I didn't mention that one because that was a given. That was the launch one. So I'm sorry.
Launch colors.
Yeah, that was there. But
I wonder if they'll make any more of that. Well, and then
I think it's available.
The first one.
Yeah.
I wish they did a Brumos edition, but that'd be kind of cool.
Good call. I like that.
Obviously, as you can see, sign and hat.
Yeah, I like where your head's
and then our
at.
mics are the same color.
Yeah.
You'll get it.
Yeah,
you'll get it.
It's all tying in.
But I probably would go Gulf livery.
Yeah,
it's just a timeless design. Those colors work well together. It screams race car all over it. But that the Valiant. Yeah. Now you got me thinking Valiant. At least it would be my top 2. I would go between the 2. If I wasn't allowed to have one or the other, I'd probably pick between them. But
and I think the only I don't want to say the only reason I like the bright colors for starters. Not that I'm a loud guy by nature or anything like that.
Look at me.
Yeah.
Look at me, my 935.
Yeah. I just feel like you're there. Like I go back to the thing already, like where people
all the way, 100% in.
And there's a lot of guys that have been quoted for saying like, well, my really high end supercars or this and that. I like to go with a subtle color, and then in my low end cars, I like to go with a little bright color. I'm kind of against the grain on that. I figure if you're going to go super high end,
I
spend crazy money,
I want to highlight.
Go nuts.
Yeah.
Get the crazy color. Like, why not? I mean, that's what that car is for. I mean, this car is a 1/77 car. Yeah, that's a bright color. But you know what? How often, honestly, even in livery remakes, how often do you ever see a Valiant livery on a car?
None.
Never, right?
Nope.
Like they redo DP cars and they put them in that color because it raced it with that livery. So that makes sense. But I can't tell you like if I've ever seen another Porsche, at least at an event. I've seen maybe some Instagram photos of like a 930 turbo that people have done some stuff to, and they've put like Valiant stuff on it, and it looks cool.
Besides the actual car that raced with the Valiant logo,
exactly.
livery,
but I mean, in
Smart,
person, I've never even seen one in person ever.
Yeah.
And like, I think that livery's so cool. Like, that would be such a badass one. And like, to think, I bet of all of these, a lot of the people that are probably buying these cars are probably going to stay away from that just because it is so loud. They're probably going to go with the Golf livery.
They're going to look something for
They're gonna
resale
go with
possibilities.
Yeah, the Martini, the ones that people recognize. You know, they're going to go with some of those big ones. You know, the John Player. You know, that one's all black. It's kind of like it's more menacing.
That would be a pretty cool one just for being subtle.
Yeah, but I like your choice. I mean, even the Momo livery, that one looks pretty tough. Like,
I just don't like red and yellow.
Yeah,
just not a fan.
Yeah,
for some reason, it just doesn't do
more
it.
Ronald McDonald than needs to be.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah,
but it's just
clown afro. It's red. Doesn't do it for you.
Like Hawaiian Tropic, I'd do that.
Yeah, that's a cool color. I like that. I like that setup. Yeah, so I think the Valiant International livery would be probably the one I went with. I think if I had a close second, to be honest with you, it's so paralleling different. I would probably go with the John Player. Like, it's kind of so like more subtle. But I think about that car in all black with just some gold accents on it would look pretty tough. Like, that would look pretty menacing looking. And I think that's my theory behind that. But I do like the Golf livery. I think the Golf looks badass in itself. It's tough because since you have all these available, and if you were one of those 77 lucky individuals, how could you pick? Like, literally, how could you really pick one?
I don't know that I would go livery. If I was really looking at it, I probably would just go whatever color.
Just like a funky, like a funky, like PTS color, maybe.
Yeah, if that's a possibility.
I'm sure. I don't think you have to do a livery. I don't think it has to be a livery car.
You have 7 liveries plus regular colors that they're offering plus PTS. Is PTS an option?
I don't even know. I mean, I'm sure it's anything you want at this level.
Whoever's buying one, can you just comment and tell us?
Yeah, anything at this level. Yeah, that'd be great. If you're one of the lucky 77, hopefully you have a screen name you hide behind or whatever, but let us know in the comments on YouTube, like which one of the ones you picked or why you picked it or which one you would pick. But honestly, it goes back to, even the launch color, the Martini one, like I would pick that one. I know everybody's seen it already, but I don't care. I don't pick it because it hasn't been seen. It just, like, that's a cool color too. Like, it just looks perfect in that color. Like,
how good would it look in a solid color too? I think it would look really good.
Oh, of course. I mean, it would look great. You know, like what would like
an all white.
Or even just like a polar silver, like with like a meatball on it with no number. Like, how tough would that look?
With a blue interior, Interpol blue.
Yeah. You know, or like you said, all white, with like just a black meatball on the side of it with no number in it. Like, that would look pretty tough, like cup car style.
Yeah.
Really tough to choose, right? Like, that made it difficult for the 77 that are there.
Well, they gave choices finally. You got a limited car with a ton of choices.
What if you wanted to go outside? Like, and we don't know because they never talk about what your availability is. Like, what if you were able to go CCX and you went really nuts and like picked anything you wanted to pick on the car, and maybe you got Hippie Lizard or something? Like,
I was thinking Hippie Lizard would be kind of cool.
That would be nuts, right?
That'd be cool just because of just all the bodywork.
Mm-hmm.
That would accentuate everything with the bright color and the deep purple.
Yeah, or what if you wanted a Sunoco car? Like how they had the Sunoco RSR back in the day. Or like you said, Brumos. I'd like Brumos. What if you want a Brumos car?
That'd be cool.
I mean, I don't really think that anything... I would think if you wanted it and you're one of the 77, I think they would try to accommodate. Like, even though if it's not...
Nope.
Yeah, I don't think the answer would be no. I think it would be more like, well, it's going to take this much more time and this much more dollars to do that. And I think once you're there, you're kind of like, well, I already have to wait X amount of time anyways. What's the point? I just want what I want.
You can't get it in this one, but the next car release, we'll let you do it.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, you want a Brumos car? Fine, we'll make you a Brumos car. It's going to take another year, though. Okay, what does it matter?
Yeah.
It's not, this car's not allowed to be on the street, so what does it matter?
Exactly.
But I think that's the route I would probably go. Probably Valiant, and then maybe, probably John Player.
Yeah.
I like that. What if you wanted a Pink Pig one?
Ooh, that's not why isn't that an option?
I don't know.
Maybe they want to keep that one close to their chest.
Yeah, maybe there's something else special is coming out with that on it. Who knows? But
917 remake.
The point is, And like you said, okay, the socks one. I don't know if a lot of people are going to pick that one.
Yeah,
just because it is kind of subtle, but I like it. It's pretty cool, right? I mean, what if they did an Apple?
That
Apple livery.
Oh, man, that'd be cool.
Like the 80s vintage Apple livery. Like, that's badass. What if you picked that on a white car and they put all the decals and all that stuff on? Oh, man. And
that'd be my PTS livery choice. If that's a thing.
You're like, I want that one.
Is there a PTS livery? Yes, let's do that.
Like, this is the secret box.
Exactly.
Right?
There's the step up. Oh, PTS. No, I want the other PTS.
It's like in Super Mario Brothers 3. You got to get the flute, fly up above,
exactly.
and get the special box. And then that box lets you buy.
That box to another box to another box.
And you're like, Apple livery. Ah!
Exactly.
But yeah, that's pretty badass. So what we're going to try to do now, guys, basically, obviously, this will be on YouTube when you guys are listening to this. Get on there and get in the comments. Tell us which one of these 7 you would have picked and why you would have picked it. Which 7
or what other one do you think they should have added?
Yeah. This is an open ballot. You can write somebody in, too, if you want on this one. What's your favorite livery that maybe it wasn't mentioned or available? Which one would you pick and why?
Or if you hate liveries, and what's your favorite color?
Or what color would you have gone with? I'll just go a solid silver.
Nobody will have that.
All the money, and that's what you picked. Who knows? There could have been tons of crazy stuff. Like, you could have even, like, what Canapa does on 959s. You could have put like a dark navy blue with like a ox blood red interior or something. Like something different. Like nutso like that would be pretty badass. Or there's just endless, obviously, things. But being one of 77, getting to pick that, and if we happen to get somebody who's listening on this that actually has an allocation, tell us what you picked on there. Put it in the comments and engage with one another. Say, hey, I would have picked that too, or no, I wouldn't have picked that, but I would have picked this. But
let us know how the build process is going.
Yeah, right. When are you expected to take delivery? That'd be really good to know. But in all seriousness, we appreciate everybody out there that is listening to us. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Get in there in the comments. Start engaging with one another. Engage with us. We'll definitely, talk back with you on there as well. Whatever you end up posting on there, we'll tell you we like that or don't like that.
You're wrong.
You're like, try again. And post something, try again. But in all seriousness, we'd like to start doing that as a community, as giving people an outlet to have a voice as well. Not just everything that we say. Go ahead and post something on there. What would you have guys liked, and what would you have picked, and why? And tell us, maybe you wouldn't have picked any of those. And
I don't like 935.
Yeah, free write-in. I would have picked chartreuse, or I would have picked ultraviolet purple.
Mauve, please.
Yeah. I would have picked sepia.
If it's not brown, it's not anything.
Yeah. Brown's the new black. But in all seriousness, thank you guys so much for listening. Till the next episode, we'll talk to you soon.
Yep, see you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of PCAR Talk. Connect with us on Instagram at PCAR Talk or online at PCARTalk.com.